Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, articles, research, our own notes, and really boil it all down to the key insights, the nuggets of knowledge you need, custom tailored for you.
Yeah.
And today, we're doing just that. We are plunging deep into the mind of, well, one of the most influential and, let's be honest, often enigmatic figures of our time, Elon Musk. We're not just looking at what he does, which is, headline news constantly. We want to understand why he does it. And we're drawing heavily from Walter Isaacson's really comprehensive biography.
That's right. And our mission today, really, is to unpack that complex mix, the personal history, those deep psychological drivers, the relentless ambition that just fuels everything he does.
Everything. From
space exploration, sustainable energy, AI, even, the chaos of social media. And we're specifically zooming in on a really pivotal, often tumultuous period in his life. We're talking chapters 51 to 95 of Isaacson's book, which takes us from the late 2000s right up through 2023.
And wow, what a period that was. I mean, this is a time that's just marked by these huge triumphs, but also profound personal challenges, right? And some totally unexpected twists, especially in his relationships.
Definitely.
You've got the near-death experiences of his companies, like Tesla and SpaceX almost going under.
Yeah.
The massive ambition behind Starship, the incredibly dramatic acquisition of Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
And his evolving, sometimes kind of alarming vision for artificial intelligence. It's a period that, as you'll see, really shaped the Elon Musk we see today. So as we start unpacking the human behind the headlines, what's the foundation? What really stands out as the bedrock of his character from this period?
Well, it's really fascinating, and Isaacson hammers this home, is how deeply rooted Musk's current actions are in his past. I mean, we're talking about the lasting impact of childhood scars. Particularly from his relationship with his father, Errol, which sounds incredibly complex, often harsh.
Harsh is maybe an understatement from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, the source material details an upbringing that, frankly, sounds brutal. There's this one story after a school fight where young Elon got really badly beaten up.
Right.
Errol apparently berated him.
Right.
For an hour, just calling him worthless and an idiot.
An hour after being beaten up? That's not discipline. That's something else entirely.
It's intense. His brother, Kimball, even remembered it as the worst memory of his life. He observed Errol had zero compassion and described him as going ballistic. Imagine the imprint that leaves.
Yeah, what does that do to a kid?
Well, according to Isaacson, it left a profound one. It seems to have instilled in Musk this deep-seated aversion to contentment.
Aversion to contentment?
Yeah, not just disliking comfort, but like a fundamental discomfort with peace, with stability. Grimes, the artist and mother of 3 of his kids.
Right.
She had this insight that he got conditioned in childhood that life is pain.
Wow.
And what's really striking is Musk himself basically agrees. He says, adversity shaped me. My pain threshold became very high.
So he embraces the pain almost.
It seems like it. And if you connect the dots, you see this wiring play out later, especially in high-stress moments. Think about 2008.
Oh, the hellish year.
Exactly. SpaceX rockets blowing up, Tesla on the absolute brink of bankruptcy. His second wife, Tallulah Riley, she recounted how he'd wake up thrashing.
Thrashing.
Yeah, thrashing in his sleep, repeating those awful phrases from his father, like he was reliving it.
God, that's chilling.
She even saw him zone out, get these steel-colored eyes showing this childlike, almost stunted side, still deeply affected by it all. So these weren't just old memories buried deep. The wounds were active, driving him decades later.
So this aversion to contentment, it's not just like a work ethic thing. It's psychological, and it seems to fuel this almost magnetic pull towards risk, towards drama. It's not just calculated business risk we're talking about here, is it?
No, not at all. Isaacson makes a point that this attraction to risk was a family trait.
Ah, okay.
Almost genetic, maybe? Inherited from his maternal grandfather, Joshua Haldeman.
The adventure.
The daredevil adventurer, yeah. Lived by the motto, live dangerously carefully. Haldeman died in a plane crash, and Musk attributes that to knowing real adventures involve risk. He explicitly said about his grandfather, risk energized him.
So Musk thrives on that same energy, that high-stakes feeling.
It seems like he needs it. Like he needs the storm, the chaos to feel truly alive, maybe. Peter Thiel, his old PayPal partner, put it really starkly.
What did Thiel say?
He said, Elon wants risk for its own sake. He seems to enjoy it, indeed at times be addicted to it.
Addicted to it. That's counterintuitive for an entrepreneur, right? You'd think they'd want to minimize risk.
Exactly. But Thiel saw it differently with Musk. And Isaacson suggests it points back to that core compulsion. His brother Kimball, again, has this incredibly direct quote.
Kimball seems pretty insightful about him.
Very. Kimball says, quote, "He is a drama magnet. That's his compulsion, the theme of his life."
A drama magnet. Wow.
It's not just a casual comment. It's like, this is the force driving him. Even Musk himself admitted it, kind of ruefully, in 2022. He said he needed to shift my mindset away from being in crisis mode for about 14 years now, or arguably most of my life.
But did he? I mean, wasn't that right around the time he was secretly buying up Twitter shares?
Exactly. The irony is just glaring. He's saying he needs to change, move away from crisis, while simultaneously, secretly, plunging himself headfirst into arguably the biggest drama storm of his career.
It's like he literally can't help it.
It seems that way. He just dives back into the fire.
It makes you think of that McLaren story, right? Crashing his $1 million sports car.
Oh yeah, the F1?
Teal supposedly tells him, floor it and see how fast it goes, and bam, obliterates the car. It's almost too perfect a metaphor, isn't it?
It really is. Just floor it and see how fast it goes. That kind of sums up his whole approach.
To everything. Business, life.
Yeah, pushing limits, pushing boundaries. Not just technology, but himself, his companies, even his personal relationships, right to the edge.
Which brings us right to those relationships. How do these traits, the intensity, the risk, maybe that emotional shielding, play out in his personal life? Especially living so much in the public eye.
Well, Justine Wilson, his first wife, offered some really crucial early insights after their divorce. She talked about his rough childhood and this brain wiring that let him just shut down emotions.
Shut down emotions.
Yeah, which led, in her words, to a situation where intensity takes the place of intimacy.
Oof. That sounds lonely, intense, but lonely.
It paints a picture of real difficulty. She also mentioned his resistance to therapy and how he'd blame her anger on Adderall, while she felt it was because he was just shutting her out emotionally.
So a communication breakdown, basically.
It seems like a really tough dynamic. Then with Tallulah Riley, his second wife, her first impression was this fascinating mix. She found him shy and slightly awkward talking about rockets.
Okay.
But then he immediately, bluntly, asks to put his hand on her knee.
Whoa, okay, that's direct.
Yeah, shy but startlingly direct. She finds out he's still married, he gives her some quick reassurance, and somehow wins her over. But her observations are key.
Yeah.
She saw these childlike enthusiasms, these pure, deep emotions.
Right.
But also this, like, unsettling coldness.
Right.
It's that paradox again. She even started throwing theatrical parties during tense times just to keep him entertained.
Keep him entertained, like managing his need for stimuli.
Exactly. It reinforces that theme. Meeting external drama, maybe to fend off some internal discomfort or boredom. He needs constant stimulation.
And then the Grimes relationship, Claire Boucher, that seems like a whole other level of unique.
Oh, yeah. They're meeting alone over a Rocco's basilisk pun on Twitter. That's pure sci-fi.
Totally.
And her first thought, after he drove her in a self-driving Tesla with his hands off the wheel, quote, "Oh shit, this guy is fucking crazy."
Huh. Quite the first date impression.
It paints a picture, right? And Grimes, with her own artistic view, offers this unique lens. She believes his Asperger's makes you a very difficult person, affecting his emotional comprehension, his ability to read the room. And she echoed that idea that he cultivated drama because he needed a lot of stimuli. There's that theme again.
It just keeps coming back.
And the biography goes into detail about their kids, XAA12 and Technomechanicus, or Tauhel, conceived via IVF and surrogate. It notes how he bonded instantly and intensely with X, took him everywhere, like a little sidekick.
Yeah, you saw pictures of X everywhere.
But it also describes his parenting style as paradoxically slightly detached, which kind of fits with that pattern of intense focus on big projects, maybe making deep emotional connection harder.
And then sort of out of the blue for the public, the twins with Siobhan Zulis.
Right. Unexpected news. And you might think, given everything else, he'd be a more distant figure, maybe like a Godfather role, as Zulis initially thought.
Yeah, that seemed possible.
But the book says he was surprisingly involved, spending nights at her place, feeding the kids, doing meetings, while literally on the floor playing with them.
Really? Conducting meetings like that?
Apparently. It shows this really unconventional but still present fatherhood, fitting them into his insane life. Maybe it highlights that craving for connection, even if it's expressed in these unusual, non-traditional ways.
It does seem like his immediate family, his mom, May, his brother Kimball, they play a really critical role, don't they? Like an anchor.
A stabilizing force, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially in tough times. May's observation is quite telling. She says he loved to have family around, and we have to do that for him, because he's under so much stress.
So they consciously provide that support system.
It seems so. And Kimball's reaction to Elon's public stuff is revealing, too. He stopped following him on Twitter because it was just too nerve-wracking.
I can imagine.
But ultimately, he forgives him, right? For the sake of that bond. It shows deep loyalty, despite the challenges Elon presents. But there's also profound pain mentioned. His relationship with his daughter, Jenna, who transitioned. Her breaking off contact with him. He attributes this really painful rift to her embracing radical socialist politics and what he calls the woke mind virus.
That sounds incredibly difficult and personal.
Deeply. And Isaacson suggests this experience significantly influenced his public political stance, which we'll definitely get into more later.
And then around early 2020, he makes this huge, dramatic move, decides to sell almost all physical possessions as he'll own no house. What was that about?
It feels like this almost monastic defensive gesture, a way to embody an ascetic ideal even while running these giant companies.
All right.
The biography suggests it was partly a reaction to billionaire becoming this negative term, making possessions an attack vector for critics.
So shedding baggage, literally.
Yeah, like preemptive self-stripping, removing vulnerabilities. He even stayed briefly at Ken Howery's place in Austin, but stopped after the Wall Street Journal apparently doxed his location. So it wasn't just philosophy, it was practical defense against perceived hostility.
Okay, so we've seen how his personal wiring, his past, shapes him profoundly. Now, let's shift focus slightly. How do these exact traits, the pain threshold, the need for challenge, the aversion to contentment, how do they fuel his professional ventures? Nowhere seems clearer than Tesla's production purgatory.
Absolutely. Moving into the professional realm, you see these traits just manifest directly in Tesla's journey, especially that phase he called production purgatory. It really tested everything about him and his vision for vertical integration. It's almost like he needed that next hell to push through.
It's funny because his mantra early on was, designing a car is easy. The difficult part is manufacturing it.
Yeah, he learned that fast.
And the Roadster, Tesla's first car, proved that point immediately, didn't it? With all those challenges and cost overruns, it set the stage.
It really did, spectacularly.
Yeah.
The Roadster's cost just ballooned from like $50,000 target to $83,000 by late 2006. Design changes, transmission nightmares.
Right.
And Musk's response, classic Musk, hands-on, impatient. He flew to England unannounced, didn't even tell his own CEO, Martin Eberhard.
Just showed up.
Just showed up at Lotus, the chassis supplier.
Yeah.
Discovered total failure with the carbon fiber body tooling. This early direct hit with manufacturing complexity, supplier issues, it really cemented in his mind that production is the hard part.
Which leads us right into production hell for the Model 3, 2017-2018. That phrase really stuck. He sent that email calling for ultra-hardcore intensity.
Yeah, greater than anything most of you have experienced before. Revolutionizing industries is not for the faint of heart. A real battle cry.
Definitely. And wasn't that when he had the whole obsession with automation that kind of backfired?
Oh, massively. His initial push for excessive automation at Tesla. He later publicly called it a mistake, famously tweeting, "Humans are underrated."
Which is pretty big, admitting that publicly after pushing so hard for robots.
It shows his pragmatism, right? His willingness to course correct, even publicly. And his correction was incredibly hands-on. Isaacson describes him physically reprogramming a robot to tighten bolts faster, tweaking the speed precisely to avoid stripping threads, cutting the time by more than half.
What?
He launched this whole de-automation drive, walked the assembly line with orange spray paint, marking machines with an X if they were unnecessary.
With spray paint?
Yeah. And apparently it became like a game for the team, turning this crisis into a shared, almost playful challenge.
That's amazing adaptability. And then facing all the skepticism from short sellers about hitting production targets for the Model 3, the solution. Build a tent.
The tent factory. It sounds almost comically improvised, but it became legendary.
Yeah.
They cleared rubble from an old parking lot, threw up this massive 1,000-foot-long tent facility, built a makeshift assembly line relying heavily on humans, not robots. Classic Musk. Burn the boats, get it done, prioritize output under immense pressure.
This all really feeds into his core philosophy, doesn't it? Vertical integration, controlling the whole process.
It's absolutely central. And it really sets Tesla apart. His decision for Tesla to make its own key components, not relying on suppliers. It's about controlling destiny, quality, cost, the whole supply chain. And it goes beyond parts. It's about creating the manufacturing processes, designing the factories themselves. He calls the factory the machine that builds the machine.
The machine that builds the machine.
Yeah, believing designing the factory is as crucial, maybe more crucial, than designing the car.
It's interesting. Larry Ellison compared him to Steve Jobs, but noted Musk's obsession went way deeper into manufacturing materials, these huge factories. Jobs mostly outsourced that.
It's a key difference. And Musk's policy of putting engineers' desks right on the assembly line edge.
That's intense.
Super intense. So they'd see the flashing lights and hear the complaints immediately if their design caused a slowdown. He'd walk the lines with them, constantly asking about root causes. Direct, immediate feedback loop. No escaping the reality of production.
And then scaling that up globally. Giga Texas, Giga Berlin, joining Fremont and Shanghai, building these massive pillars of production.
Incredibly fast, too. Less than 2 years for Austin and Berlin. And his ability to sell the vision was key, like with Panasonic.
The Gigafactory partner.
Yeah. At a dinner, Musk apparently charmed them, sketched out his whole vision for electrifying the world, convinced Panasonic to be a 40% partner. Their CEO even admitted, "We are too conservative. We have to use some of Elon's thinking." Shows his persuasive power when he's on mission.
And the Cybertruck. I remember the reveal, the reaction. He insisted on that futuristic, jarring cyber design, sharp angles, facets, even when his team apparently wanted something more traditional.
Totally overrode them. And his quote, "I don't care if no one buys it. I want to build something that's cool."
That's pure Musk, isn't it? Vision over market research. Aesthetics over convention.
Absolutely. Speaks volumes about his conviction and maybe, again, that high threshold for criticism or market failure. He builds what he believes in, what he thinks is cool, first and foremost.
Okay, let's shift orbit now. Let's blast off to SpaceX. This is where that multiplanetary vision, the Mars mandate, really takes center stage. It's almost unbelievably audacious.
It really is. And initially, the idea was kind of philanthropic, right? Just to inspire people about space. Send mice to Mars, maybe a greenhouse, get some cool photos.
Right, spark interest.
But it quickly became existential for him. Making life multiplanetary is the next important step for humanity. Not just cool, but necessary. To avoid stagnation, avoid straining Earth forever. Max Lifchin, PayPal guy, had that dry assessment.
What was that?
He said, one of Elon's greatest skills is the ability to pass off his vision as a mandate from heaven.
A mandate from heaven to go to Mars.
It captures his ability to frame his personal obsession as humanity's destiny. And Starlink, the satellite internet thing, plays a surprisingly pragmatic role.
Right, it's the funding mechanism.
Totally. The book quotes the thinking. Internet revenue is about $1 trillion a year. That was the inspiration for Starlink to fund getting to Mars. It's a cold, hard business plan for an existential dream. The lens of getting to Mars has motivated every SpaceX decision. That quote sums it up. Singular focus.
And his whole approach to building rockets is just different. Completely unlike the old NASA way. Risk-taking, iterative design, lots of explosions.
Oh, yeah. It's his learn-by-failing philosophy, just with much bigger, fiery consequences. Isaacson explains. Rockets and engines would be quickly prototyped, tested, blown up, revised, and tried again.
Blow them up and learn.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Tom Mueller, key engine guy, said, "It's not how well you avoid problems. It's how fast you figure out what the problem is and fix it." Total contrast to traditional aerospace, where failure is avoided at all costs.
Because they're private, they can take those risks.
Exactly. Push engines till they break just to know what the limits are. A luxury government programs rarely have.
And choosing Kwajalein Atoll, that remote army base, for launches instead of, say, Vandenberg, that was strategic too, wasn't it?
Very. Major Tim Mango there was apparently rolling out the red carpet for commercial space, unlike the Air Force's cold shoulder. So they went where they were welcomed. And the methods were super scrappy. Plywood paths for rockets, engineers fixing power issues on site with spare parts, like pirates building rockets.
And those early Falcon 1 failures in 2008 must have been brutal. 3 crashes in a row.
Devastating. After the third one, booster bumps the second stage. Boom! Musk is burning cash fast under insane pressure. What does he do?
Tries again.
Tries again. A fourth launch attempt with a 6-week deadline. 6 weeks. After 3 failures. People called it doable, but insane. But he really had no choice to keep SpaceX alive. Shows that extreme resolve, betting everything when most would fold.
Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX president, she seems like such a crucial counterweight to his impulsiveness.
Yeah, absolutely vital. The book highlights her bluntness, calling the early sales team loser, and her guts joining this risky startup run by a mercurial millionaire as employee number 7.
Employee number 7.
Yeah. And her key role is being able to push back against his excesses. She even stopped him from impulsively canceling the Falcon Heavy program.
He wanted to cancel Falcon Heavy.
Yeah, his burn the boats instinct kicked in. I want to go all in on Starship way too early. Shotwell had to forcefully reverse that, arguing they needed Falcon Heavy for revenue, for credibility. Her having the standing to get away with such a challenge speaks volumes about their dynamic. He needed someone like her.
Speaking of Starship, the innovations there are wild. Like switching to stainless steel, that threw people off.
Classic Musk first principles thinking. He realized old Atlas rockets used stainless steel, did the math, or rather demanded his team run the numbers.
Right.
And it turned out steel gets much stronger, like 50% stronger at the super cold temperatures needed for the fuel. So counterintuitive, but correct based on physics. Challenging convention again.
And Mechazilla and the chopsticks to catch the booster. That's peak Musk humor mixed with insane engineering.
Totally. Naming the giant launch tower Mechazilla and its catching arms chopsticks. His tweet was perfect. SpaceX will try to catch largest ever flying object with robot chopsticks. Success is not guaranteed, but excitement is.
Captures the spirit.
And the reason for no landing legs, the best part, is no part. Pure engineering minimalism. Eliminate complexity, eliminate failure points, and it looks awesome.
But developing the Raptor engines for Starship wasn't smooth sailing. He was in despair and fury, said he wanted to stab my eye with a fork.
Yeah, over the complexity of the cost, he got deep in the weeds in redesign meetings, questioning every idiot index part, demanding cost cuts from $2 million down to maybe $200,000 per engine. Brutal pressure.
And that pressure had a human cost, didn't it? The story about the engineer, Lucas Hughes.
Yeah, it's a tough anecdote. Hughes describes getting absolutely reamed out by Musk over costs, just intense, unrelenting demands. And then Gwen Shotwell later compassionately reveals that Hughes had just lost his child around that time. It really highlights Musk's blind spot sometimes, that single-minded focus on the task, maybe missing the human element, the empathy. A stark reminder of his intense leadership style.
And then the first big Starship launch, April 2023, he was feeling the pressure. Stomach twisted in knots.
Yeah, PTSD from the failures on Quaj, he apparently felt. And there was that big miscalculation with the launch mount.
The concrete instead of steel plate.
Exactly. They relied on high-density concrete, which, turned out to be a mistake.
Yeah.
Huge crater, debris everywhere. But true to form, his reflection later was pure fail fast.
What did he say?
Take risks. Learn by blowing things up. Revise. Repeat. We don't want to design to eliminate every risk. Otherwise, we will never get anywhere. Even with his family watching the spectacle, the setbacks are just part of the process for him.
Okay, shifting gears again dramatically. The Twitter takeover. Chaos, free speech debates, financial turmoil, culture shock. It had everything. He called Twitter an ideal playground, a flamethrower for the thumbs.
He clearly enjoyed the platform's nature, but his motivations were layered. There was this swelling concern about the woke mind virus.
Found term again.
Yeah. He genuinely seemed to believe Twitter censored people on the wrong end of the spectrum, and he really disliked the permanent ban of a former president.
Great.
But it wasn't just politics.
What else?
He saw it as a chance to finally build his everything app, fulfill that original vision for X.com, PayPal, a platform for payments, financial services, content, a digital Swiss Army knife.
And the offer itself was pure impulse. Right. Just text the CEO, Agrawal, I'm not joining the board. This is a waste of time. We'll make an offer to take Twitter private.
Textbook Musk. Decisive, abrupt, his logic. Fixing Twitter by chatting with Parag won't work. Drastic action is needed. Floor it.
And the drastic action was ruthless.
Incredibly ruthless implementation of his hardcore culture. The fast-close strategy aimed to fire Agrawal and other top execs for a cause right before their stock options vested.
To save money.
Yeah, an estimated $200 million. Then came the mass layoffs, cutting about half the company's employees worldwide, hitting some infrastructure teams by almost 90%.
90%?
Yeah. He apparently brushed off HR's concerns about diversity impacts, only delaying firings briefly for legal cover. It was described as a 3-round bloodbath.
And he brought in his cousins, the Three Musketeers.
James and Andrew Musk, yeah. Software engineers from Tesla and Neuralink, basically voluntold to help him figure Twitter out. They shared his addiction to that game Polytopia, apparently.
Weird detail.
And James's view that Twitter had too many product managers who don't know anything about coding definitely fueled Musk's thinking, leading to big changes.
And the directive to root out malcontents.
Swift and unforgiving. He told his cousins to find engineers making very snarky comments in public Slack channels. Got about 3 dozen fired. His view was clear. Unfettered free speech did not extend to the workplace. His house, his rules.
The whole content moderation thing got messy fast, too. He promised this council.
Yeah, pledged no major content decisions or account reinstatements will happen before that council convenes. But then quickly backtracked, saying it would just be advisory, not really a priority now. A big reversal.
And the Twitter file stuff, the shadow banning perception?
Well, he'd initially approved Joel Roth's plan for visibility filtering, de-amplifying problematic stuff instead of outright bans. But later, that got framed as shadow banning when internal documents were released. Then came the controversial unbannings.
Trump got back on.
Right. But he drew a very personal, very firm line at Alex Jones. Citing the death of his firstborn child, he said, "I have no mercy for anyone who would use the deaths of children for gain, politics, or fame."
Wow.
But then Kanye West tested the limits, posting that swastika inside a Star of David, the anti-Semitic stuff, showing the real complexities of free speech he was now grappling with as owner.
And the Sacramento data center raid, Christmas Eve, that sounds completely insane.
It's one of the wildest anecdotes. He's frustrated. Servers aren't moving fast enough, so he literally leads a raid on the data center on Christmas Eve with his cousins, Grimes, his toddler son, X, in tow.
With his son?
Apparently. Arguing with executives, you got a goddamn U-Haul, you could probably do it by yourself, haggling over server weights, floor pressure, just chaos.
Unbelievable.
And his cousin James embodies the scrappiness, uses Yelp to find movers, extra care movers, does it for a tenth of the quoted cost, pays the guy cash or PayPal because the mover didn't even have a bank account. It's just peak Musk operational chaos. Impatient, DIY, disregard for norms, but somehow gets it done.
But all this turbulence had consequences, right? The back.
Oh, yeah. Huge public and financial backlash. Advertisers got spooked, fled, didn't want their brands and what they saw as a toxic speech cesspool. David Zaslav, the Warner Bros. Discovery CEO, told him flat out he was doing self-destructive things.
Tesla stock took a hit.
Dropped significantly. The Tesla board got worried, though Musk kind of denied the direct link. And Joel Roth, the trust and safety head.
He resigned.
Yeah. Despite initially finding Musk reasonable, funny, engaging, he left because of Musk's emerging authoritarian, mean, dark streak. And then Roth himself got targeted by a Twitter mob after his emails came out in the files, with Musk even retweeting nasty stuff about Roth's academic work.
Ouch. So the free speech advocate enabling harassment?
A definite paradox. Shows the real-world impact of his actions on individuals caught in the whirlwind.
Okay, let's pivot one last time to the AI frontier. This is an area where Musk has these huge hopes, but also really deep fears. Neuralink, the brain-computer interface company, is right out there.
Yeah, the goal is ambitious. Neural dust implants for direct brain-machine connection.
Yeah.
Siobhan Zillis, who we mentioned earlier, was key at Neuralink. She said she learned more unique lessons from Elon per minute than any other human I've met.
High praise. And they had that monkey playing Pong.
They're the monkey, yeah. Playing Pong telepathically with a Neuralink implant. That video got millions of views, really brought the concept home for people.
But Musk wasn't satisfied.
He was impatient, wanted more impact than just moving a cursor. Said it doesn't have the same limbic resonance as making paralyzed people walk again. He kept pushing for a plan to get that kind of result, always pushing for the bigger leap. And Optimus, the humanoid robot. The design brief was very specific, wasn't it? Elfish and androgynous.
Yeah, about 5'8", designed so it doesn't feel like it could or would want to hurt you. It reveals his own complex feelings about AI, doesn't it?
Seems like it. Even the Young Frankenstein reference.
Right. His playful nod to the Mel Brooks movie apparently sparked serious internal talks about ensuring the robots didn't become monsters. He'd cite Asimov's laws, game plan against deadly robot armies. It sounds like sci-fi, but his concern about AI risk is genuine and long-standing.
But he's also focused on the practicalities, the cost.
Absolutely. Meticulous focus on manufacturing cost and function, analyzing the cost of degrees of freedom in the wrist, figuring out they could use cheap liftgate actuators from our cars instead of expensive custom parts. Pragmatism alongside the existential dread. And he sees huge potential there, bigger than cars.
Believes Optimus has the potential to be more significant than the vehicle business. Robots carrying boxes, doing repetitive tasks nobody wants. A potential transformation of labor.
Which connects to his broader AI concerns, the falling out with Larry Page.
Yeah, a decade-long worry about AI running amok. It apparently destroyed his friendship with Google co-founder Larry Page, who thought Musk's fears were speciest.
Speciest, wow.
This deep conviction led him to co-found OpenAI back in 2015. a nonprofit meant to be a counterweight to Google, ensuring AI benefited humanity.
But then he became a huge critic of OpenAI later on.
Very critical, especially by early 2023. He slammed his transformation into a closed-source, maximum-profit company effectively controlled by Microsoft, especially after his $100 million donation to its nonprofit roots.
He felt betrayed.
Seems like it. He called AI the most powerful tool that mankind has ever created and hated seeing it in the hands of a ruthless corporate monopoly. This fear ties into his concern about the singularity.
Where AI surpasses human intelligence.
Exactly. Human intelligence plateaus, computer intelligence shoots up exponentially. His hope and the driving force behind his own XAI is for a maximum truth-seeking AI, one that cares about understanding the universe, which he thinks would probably lead it to want to preserve humanity.
That sounds almost philosophical, spiritual even.
It is, and he links it back to his childhood, reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the supercomputer seeking the answer to the ultimate question. It's a deep-seated intellectual quest for him.
And his vision-only approach for autopilot at Tesla, getting rid of radar, that caused a stir.
Big controversy. He decided to turn off radar in January 2021, insisting cameras alone were the way. Called radar a terrible crutch. Sparked debate, engish TSA investigations.
Why did he think cameras alone were better?
He believed it would force the system to get smarter, to truly see like humans. He controversially blamed bad drivers rather than bad software for accidents, even wanted to use in-car camera data to prove it, which hit privacy walls.
But did it work? Did vision only improve?
Well, in April 2023, he did a test drive with a new system relying purely on a neural network trained to imitate human driving, minimal traditional code. And he was apparently blown away, became a believer, shifted resources to push it forward, realizing Tesla's huge advantage with all the video data from its cars. For him, it was vindication.
Okay, finally, let's look at his politics and public persona, which seemed to shift quite dramatically, especially from 2020 onwards. That woke mind virus idea seems central.
It really does seem to anchor his shift. It started becoming more public around the pandemic. His March 2020 tweet, "The coronavirus panic is dumb,"
I didn't remember that.
and defying California's lockdown orders, keeping the Fremont factory open, saying he'd personally be at work. That anti-authority stance, skepticism of mandates, really ramped up.
And does Isaacson connect this directly to the personal pain regarding his daughter Jenna?
Yes, the biography suggests his deep distress over her transition and her embracing what he saw as radical socialist politics is directly tied to his framing of the woke mind virus. Jared Burchell, his close aide, confirmed Musk sees himself as a first-hand witness of the damaging effect of being indoctrinated by this woke mind religion.
So it's deeply personal, fueling the public stance.
It appears so. He also started saying wokeness was destroying humor, making comedy illegal. That led him to embrace the Babylon Bee, the conservative satire site, over The Onion, even giving them an interview, signaling a clear cultural shift.
And his clashes with the establishment got louder. President Biden, for example.
Yeah, that snub from the White House EV event in 2021 really seemed to rankle him. Tesla, the biggest EV seller by far, wasn't invited, but GM, Ford, Chrysler were.
Right.
Then Biden praised GM for leading the EV revolution when they'd sold like 26 EVs that quarter compared to Tesla's 300,000. Musk's response was that infamous tweet, "Biden is a damp sock puppet in human form."
Ouch. Zero subtlety there.
None. Pure contempt for what he saw as political posturing over reality.
And the fight with Bill Gates over Gates shorting Tesla stock.
That got really personal and ugly. Gates reportedly lost $1.5 billion shorting Tesla. Musk was seething. His reaction was described as super mean, even after Gates tried to apologize.
What did Musk say privately?
He texted someone he was convinced that Gates is categorically insane and an asshole to the core. Gates, publicly at least, was more measured, acknowledging Musk's innovation push, a real contrast in styles.
And then the public controversies, wading into conspiracy theories sometimes. The Thai cave incident stands out.
Oh, the pedo guy tweet. That was a classic example of his action hero impulse, building the mini sub, flipping into lashing out publicly. He called the cave diver Vern Unsworth pedo guy with zero evidence. Tesla stock dropped, his team had to scramble, and he only reluctantly apologized.
And the tweet targeting Dr. Fauci.
December 2022. That caused another firestorm. His own brother Kimball called him out. "Not okay, it's not funny, you can't do that shit." It shows him, as Isaacson puts it, skittering at times on the edges of the rabbit holes of conspiracy theories. Retweeting RFK Jr.'s anti-vax stuff, too. And his dad, Errol, apparently egged him on, advising him to hit them hard.
Wow. And the Elon Jet saga tracking his plane. That seemed to really hit a nerve, colliding his free speech absolutism with his personal security.
Big time. He believed the account, using public data to track his jet, was doxing and endangering him. Then came an incident where he believed a stalker targeted his son X because of the location sharing.
So he banned the account.
Briefly banned at Elon Jet, and controversially several journalists who reported on it. It starkly highlighted the conflict. His loud principles about free speech crashing directly into his very real fears for his family's safety. Personal security trumped the principle in that moment. A real tension there.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've really navigated this incredibly complex, often chaotic landscape of Elon Musk's recent past, from the deep personal stuff, the childhood trauma, that relentless appetite for risk and drama,
Right.
all the way to the brutal pursuit of his visions at Tesla and SpaceX, and of course, the whirlwind Twitter takeover.
We've really seen, haven't we, how his personal wiring, those fundamental experiences, those psychological drivers, just directly shapes his professional decisions.
Right.
It leads to these incredible breakthroughs, yeah, but also these really intense controversies.
Exactly. His push for vertical integration at Tesla, the learn by failing, blow it up approach at SpaceX, the hardcore culture he imposed at Twitter, his vision for AI, both exciting and alarming, it's all tied together. It all comes back to his unique psychology, his life experiences.
And what's so fascinating, drawing from these chapters, is seeing how those childhood challenges, that aversion to contentment, it forged this incredible resilience, this sky-high pain threshold. It lets him push himself, push boundaries to limits most people just couldn't handle. It's like a continuous cycle, reinforcing who he is and driving him to the next impossible thing.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. Considering how one person's very deep, very personal struggles and their unique, often contradictory mind can have such a massive impact on our future, shaping everything from our cars to maybe living on other planets to AI to how we even communicate, what does that really mean for the future of innovation, for leadership?
And maybe the even bigger question, what's the price? Is there a cost the world is paying for this kind of singular, obsessive drive and accomplishment? Is it a necessary trade-off for pushing humanity forward so fast? Or does it maybe highlight some risks, some vulnerabilities in how we pursue progress when it's so tied to one complex individual? Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive. Welcome, curious minds. Today we're embarking on really an unparalleled journey deep into the mind and life of one of the most talked about figures of our time, Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
You've generously shared a wealth of insights from a recent, highly detailed biography, a true treasure trove, really. And our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to extract the most crucial nuggets of knowledge, particularly from the formative early chapters of his story.
Right.
We're talking about the foundational experiences and defining traits that set the stage for, well, everything that came after.
Exactly. This isn't just a surface-level scan of facts and dates. Not at all. We're going to dive deep into these sources to truly understand the foundational experiences, from his often harrowing childhood traumas to the inherent, almost singular traits that have shaped his relentless drive to build new worlds.
Yeah.
What's truly fascinating here, as you'll see, is how recurring patterns, often rooted in those very formative years, manifest time and again in his most ambitious and sometimes most controversial ventures.
Think of this as your shortcut to being truly well-informed, a way to kind of cut through the noise and get right to the essence of what makes him tick. We'll bring you surprising facts, connect the dots between seemingly disparate events, and uncover those aha moments that make knowledge truly stick. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack some incredible, often challenging insights into the crucible that forged Elon Musk.
Oh,
The formative years. A crucible of character. Okay, let's unpack this first. When you sent us this material, the descriptions of his childhood were genuinely startling. I mean, really startling.
They are.
We have to begin with the almost unbelievable Weltschule experiences he recounts. Imagine being a young boy, maybe 9 or 10 years old, suddenly divided into groups and told to attack each other in this brutal South African wilderness camp.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom.
Musk himself describes it as insane, mind-blowing. And this wasn't just some rough and tumble play. The counselors apparently used the deaths of other children as a chilling warning, telling them, and I quote, "Don't be stupid like that dumb fuck who died last year." This environment sounds unbelievably brutal, shaping a child in ways we can only begin to comprehend.
It absolutely sets a profoundly harsh tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The source goes on to mention that by his second time at Welt School, at nearly 16, Musk was physically much bigger and had learned judo.
Right.
This time, however, the dynamic shifted. He realized he could punch them very hard in the nose, and then they wouldn't bully me again.
So direct confrontation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says, they might beat the shit out of me, but if I had punched them hard in the nose, they wouldn't come after me again. This isn't just a physical lesson. It's a stark illustration of a formative period where he learned to defend himself in an incredibly confrontational and uncompromising way.
Yeah.
This direct, almost aggressive approach to conflict, even if it meant absorbing significant pain, it undeniably shaped his future leadership style and his famous burn the birds philosophy. He learned early that sometimes the only way to stop an attack is to hit back with overwhelming force.
But those physical scars, as jarring and severe as they sound, were really minor compared to the deep emotional wounds inflicted by his father, Errol.
Oh, definitely.
The biography describes Errol as an engineer, rogue, and charismatic fantasist. And this part is truly heartbreaking. After a school fight where Elon was severely pummeled, suffering a concussion, a broken nose, other injuries, his father actually sided with the other kid.
Unbelievable.
Errol apparently rationalized it by saying Elon had a tendency to call people stupid and that the boy had just lost his father to suicide. Can you imagine the devastating impact on a child coming home from the hospital only to be met with that kind of betrayal and lack of empathy from his own parent?
The emotional impact was, by all accounts, immense and long-lasting. Elon himself vividly recalls standing for an hour as his father yelled at him, calling him an idiot and worthless after he came home from the hospital.
An hour.
Yeah. His brother, Kimball, who witnessed much of this, calls it the worst memory of his life, noting that Errol just lost it, went ballistic, as he often did. He had zero compassion.
Zero compassion.
This profound, almost pathological lack of empathy from a parent deeply conditioned Musk. It's a recurring, painful pattern where his father's harshness and cruelty became a constant, corrosive undercurrent, arguably shaping Elon's own often abrasive interpersonal style and his incredibly high tolerance for pain and criticism.
And here's where it gets really interesting, connecting those early traumas to his adult behavior. The source explicitly states that the PTSD, this post-traumatic stress disorder from his childhood, also instilled in him an aversion to contentment. Claire Bocher, known more widely as Grimes, the mother of some of his children, observes this firsthand. She notes, "I just don't think he knows how to savor success and smell the flowers."
Wow, that's telling.
She truly believes, as the biography highlights, that he got conditioned in childhood that life is pain. That's a profoundly sad but powerful statement about how deeply these wounds ran, making constant striving his default mode.
And Musk himself, surprisingly, agrees with this assessment, stating quite directly, "Adversity shaped me. My pain threshold became very high." This is absolutely critical because it provides a foundational explanation for his relentless, almost compulsive drive. It's as if he can't stop. Stopping, for him, might mean confronting that deep-seated pain and discomfort.
Right.
Tallulah Riley, his second wife, provides another poignant example. She recounted how during the hellish period of 2008, when SpaceX rockets were literally exploding and Tesla was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, I remember reading about that time. Intense.
He'd wake up recounting horrendous things his father had once said. What's even more chilling is that she'd heard him use those same brutal phrases himself when he was angry.
Oh, wow.
He'd zone out during these memories, seeming to disappear behind his steel-colored eyes, retaining what she described as a childlike, almost stunted side. This strongly suggests the past was never truly in the past for him. It's a foundational, almost unhealed element of his character that continuously influences his present.
Beyond the sheer trauma, the source attributes some of his distinctive traits to a blend of heritage and breeding along with the hardwiring of his brain, making him at times callous and impulsive.
Right, nature and nurture both playing a role.
But critically, it also gave him an exceedingly high tolerance for risk. It's a fascinating, complex interplay, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Peter Thiel, his early PayPal partner and a keen observer, famously noted, "Elon wants risk for its own sake. He seems to enjoy it, indeed at times be addicted to it."
Addicted to it.
Yeah. This isn't just about cold, calculated risk assessment. It's an almost primal attraction to high-stakes situations, a fundamental comfort in the face of immense uncertainty. The source likens it to Andrew Jackson's quote, "I was born for a storm and a calm does not suit me," stating that Musk feels most alive when a hurricane is coming.
Huh.
This high tolerance, even craving for risk, is a defining characteristic that would inform all his future ventures, making him comfortable where most others would be paralyzed by fear or caution. It allows him to attempt the seemingly impossible.
His brother Kimball, who knows him intimately, quite succinctly calls him a drama magnet, noting it's his compulsion, the theme of his life.
A drama magnet, yeah.
He describes how Elon thrives on crises and wild surges of work, pushing himself so hard that the strain sometimes makes him vomit. It's almost a self-inflicted chaos, isn't it?
This compulsion for drama is a truly recurring theme throughout his life and career. Even after an objectively, wildly successful 2021, a year marked by 31 successful SpaceX launches, nearly 1 million Teslas sold, and him becoming, for a time, the richest man on Earth.
Right, by any measure, an incredible year.
Musk himself spoke ruefully about his compulsion to stir up dramas, saying, "I need to shift my mindset away from being in crisis mode, arguably most of my life."
He acknowledged it himself.
He did. Yet, as he made this pledge, almost reflexively, he was secretly buying Twitter shares, a platform the source describes as the world's ultimate playground. This strongly suggests a deeply ingrained behavioral pattern, a fundamental, perhaps subconscious need for external pressure, and a crisis state to feel fully engaged, productive, and, well, alive.
The biography also reveals a critical piece of information that truly provides a new lens through which to understand some of his less conventional and at times challenging interactions. While never formally diagnosed as a child, his mother is sure he's right about having Asperger's. This condition, combined with the profound impact of his childhood trauma, profoundly affected his social skills.
Indeed. He openly admits, "I took people literally when they said something, and it was only by reading books that I began to learn that people did not always say what they really meant."
Learning social cues from books.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. This literal interpretation, a hallmark of Asperger's, explains his natural preference for precise fields like engineering, physics, and coding, where literal interpretation is a strength, not a hindrance. While he is certainly capable of deep emotion, especially for his children, the source concludes that he didn't have the emotional receptors that produce everyday kindness and warmth and a desire to be liked, often leading to the blunt observation that he could be an asshole.
Wow.
This provides a critical, maybe even empathetic lens for understanding many of his later interactions, his often awkward social moments, and the unique, no-nonsense culture he cultivated in his companies.
So this powerful attraction to risk wasn't just forged in the crucible of his childhood traumas. It was, quite astonishingly, a family trait, deeply inherited from his maternal grandfather, Joshua Haldeman.
That's right, the Haldeman side.
He's described as a daredevil adventurer who, among other things, studied chiropractic techniques and, get this, broken horses in Canada. What a character.
The Haldemans, in fact, had a family motto: live dangerously carefully.
Live dangerously carefully. I like that.
They didn't just talk about it, they lived it. They undertook incredible feats, pushing the boundaries of human endurance and technology. We're talking about long-distance flights to Norway, tying for first place in the grueling 12,000-mile Cape Town to Algiers motor rally.
12,000 miles.
Being the first to fly a single-engine plane from Africa to Australia, they even removed the back seats of their plane for extra gas tanks to accomplish that.
That's just incredible dedication.
Tragically, Joshua himself was killed teaching someone to fly when the plane hit a power line. Musk, though only 3 at the time, later reflected that his grandfather knew that real adventures involve risk. Risk energized him.
So it runs deep.
This powerfully suggests that his high-risk tolerance wasn't solely born of trauma, but was also, in part, a deeply embedded part of his genetic makeup, a powerful legacy of relentless pursuit of adventure and pushing limits that runs in his blood.
Moving on to the early spark of genius, which was evident from a very young age. His father, Errol, actually claimed to have named Elon presciently after the Elon, from a Werner von Braun sci-fi book, Project Mars, which depicts a colony on the Red Planet run by this executive.
Quite the claim.
As a child, Elon himself was described as complex. He cried a lot, ate a lot, and slept little, with rapidly switching moods. Even then, you can clearly see hints of the intense, driven, and often unpredictable individual he would become.
He was a truly complex child, and his early reading habits clearly shaped his trajectory. His early exposure to science fiction, particularly Isaac Asimov's sprawling Foundation series, and its conceptual Zeroth law of robotics, which suggests an overarching goal of protecting humanity,
Right, the greater good.
directly motivated his later quest to make humanity a spacefaring species and responsibly harness artificial intelligence. But what truly stood out and offered him a vital lifeline was Douglas Adams's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which most influenced his wonder years.
Hitchhiker's Guide, that's unexpected.
It didn't just shape his philosophy, it importantly pulled him out of his existential depression as a lonely, bullied child. This unique blending of deep philosophical questioning about humanity's future with a droll, absurdist humor is absolutely key to understanding his worldview and his unique, often irreverent way of approaching monumental, world-changing challenges.
It's hard to imagine now in our hyper-connected world, but there was a time when personal computers weren't ubiquitous. At around 11, he saw his first computer in a Johannesburg mall, staring at it for minutes, utterly mesmerized, having only read about them in magazines.
Right, a totally different era.
He then hounded his father to get him one, but Errol was bizarrely averse, claiming they were only good for time-wasting games. So, in a remarkable act of early self-reliance, Elon saved money from odd jobs and bought his own Commodore VSC-20.
This self-driven learning and persistence, especially against his father's bizarre resistance, is truly remarkable and an early, powerful indicator of his future trajectory. By 13, after teaching himself Pascal and Turbo C++ A, highly advanced skills for his age, he created a video game called Blastar in just 123 lines of BASIC. What's even more incredible is that this game was actually published in a magazine.
Published? That's amazing.
The game itself involved destroying an alien space freighter, which is carrying deadly hydrogen bombs and status beam machines. This combination of self-taught programming prowess and a bold, if slightly absurd, vision for his game clearly points to his future as a builder of complex, world-altering systems, tackling grand, often sci-fi-inspired problems.
The biography also details the profound impact of Errol's personality, describing his mix of flamboyance and frugality, and his forceful and occasionally convincing assertions. He believed, for instance, in a deeper truth about probability beyond randomness, or insisted the U.S. president is considered divine and cannot be criticized.
Wow.
It paints a picture of a very unconventional and, at times, deeply unreliable parental figure, someone who bent reality to his will.
Kimball observed firsthand that Errol will literally make up things, but he actually believes his own false reality.
He believed his own lies.
Apparently so. This, according to the source, was mental torture for both Elon and Kimball, leading them to constantly question what is reality. This dynamic where Elon was exposed to an almost manufactured reality, a father who convincingly believed his own fabrications, may have inadvertently contributed to Elon's own later tendency to bend reality through sheer conviction and bold, often wildly optimistic pronouncements.
Interesting.
He learned early to assert his own vision, even if it seemed fantastic or impossible to others, a trait that would prove both incredibly powerful and, at times, deeply problematic in his later career. 2. Forging the entrepreneur. College and first ventures.
With the tumultuous years of childhood behind him and that unique brain wiring firmly established, it's fascinating to see how these foundational traits continued to shape him as he finally embarked on his college journey. At age 17, Musk made the brave, almost impulsive decision to move to Canada alone, arriving in Montreal.
All by himself, yeah.
He recounts being used to South Africa, where people will just rob and kill you, so he slept on his backpack until, over time, realizing not everyone was a murderer and that people didn't have bars on their windows. What an utterly jarring cultural and psychological shift for a teenager. It must have been a profound moment of recalibration.
The contrast must have been striking, a real eye-opener to a different kind of world. His early experience in Canada quickly shaped his entrepreneurial thinking. He then bought a $100 Greyhound Discovery Pass, which allowed 6 months of travel across Canada, a period of self-discovery, and quite a practical lesson.
$100 for 6 months of travel.
Nice. Right. During this trip, his suitcase with traveler's checks was accidentally taken off the bus. The difficulty of getting traveler's checks replaced, a process that took weeks, filled with frustration and bureaucracy, gave him an early taste of how the financial payment system needed disruption.
So the seed for PayPal or X.com was planted that early.
Seems like it. This seemingly small personal frustration, born out of a real-world problem, directly sparked a key idea for his future ventures, demonstrating how practical inconveniences could ignite a multi-billion-dollar vision for change.
After his mother, May, settled in Toronto, Elon moved there, soon followed by his sister Tosca, though Kimball stayed behind for school. They shared a rent-controlled apartment, and one of their first significant purchases, almost inevitably, was a computer for Elon.
Priorities.
It sounds like his world quickly narrowed back down to his core interests.
It did, quite dramatically. His social life in Toronto was, by all accounts, minimal to non-existent. He had no friends or social life and spent nearly all of his time reading or on the computer, honing his skills.
Just focused.
Totally. His sister Tosca, who was much more outgoing and saucy, wanting to go out and socialize, found him a challenging companion. When Elon insisted on joining her and her friends, she famously ordered, "You have to stay 10 feet away from me at all times."
10 feet. That's harsh.
He would literally walk behind her and her friends, carrying a book to read in clubs or parties, a stark image. This anecdote powerfully underscores his intense focus, his unwavering dedication to his own pursuits, and his social awkwardness even as a teenager, illustrating a personality driven by internal objectives rather than external social norms.
Moving into his formal college years at Queen's University and then Penn, it's clear his ability to crack systems wasn't limited to code. At Queen's, Musk quickly figured out how to reverse engineer the logic of a business simulation game. And, as you might expect, ended up winning every single time.
Of course he did.
Later at Penn, his closest friend was Robin Wren, a physics Olympiad winner who noted Musk's intense, almost singular focus.
Wren's observations are incredibly insightful because they reveal the earliest seeds of his later industrial empire. Wren recalls Musk focusing on three distinct yet interconnected areas that would ultimately shape his entire career: rockets, electric cars, and video games.
The big three, right there.
Pretty much. Musk would constantly discuss how the laws of physics applied to building rockets, even talking about making a rocket that could go to Mars, which Wren, quite understandably, initially dismissed as fantasizing.
Can't blame him, really.
But Musk was deadly serious. He also avidly read academic papers on batteries, driven by California's mandate for zero-emission electric vehicles, declaring, with characteristic conviction, "I want to go make that happen." This shows a remarkably early and consistent alignment with his future ventures, demonstrating a truly long-term, almost preordained vision for his life's work.
In summer 1994, between his junior and senior years at Penn, Musk scored internships with a supercapacitor research group focused on electric cars and space weapons, and interestingly, a video game company.
Right, covering his bases.
It shows a diversification of interests, but also a common thread of pushing technological boundaries.
It truly does. While he clearly had a fanatic love of video games and the skills to make money creating them, he had a profound realization during that summer. He understood that was not the best way to spend his life.
Interesting. So games weren't impactful enough.
That seems to be the core of it. He articulated a core desire that would become his defining motivator. I wanted to have more impact. This internal drive, not just for personal success or wealth, but for significant systemic societal change, became a foundational principle, guiding him away from merely lucrative paths towards those with grander, more audacious ambitions, even if they seemed utterly impossible to others.
He and Kimball then embarked on a memorable cross-country journey, driving his BMW from Palo Alto back to Philadelphia after those summer internships in 1994. It was a 3-week road trip where the car repeatedly broke down.
Oh, boy.
Sounds like a real bonding experience, or perhaps more accurately, a true test of patience and resourcefulness.
It definitely became another challenging test of his practical, hands-on problem-solving skills, and a revealing one at that. When professional mechanics failed repeatedly to fix the car in Colorado Springs, Elon, with his characteristic tenacity, successfully reworked everything the professional mechanic had done at a truck stop.
He just fixed it himself at a truck stop.
Yep. It reinforces his deep-seated, practical approach to fixing anything that's broken, a trait that would serve him well later on. The journey also included a telling anecdote about him giving his college girlfriend a necklace he claimed was from his father's emerald mine in South Africa, a claim that was later revealed to be entirely false.
Ah, the fantasist element again.
Perhaps. It provides an early glimpse into his narrative shaping, a willingness to embellish for effect, to create a more compelling story, even if it wasn't entirely grounded in reality. It's a pattern we see later in his public pronouncements.
Speaking of crafting visions, Musk had come up with an idea for an internet company during his final year at Penn. An executive from NYNX spoke about an online Yellow Pages, and Musk, with his keen insight, immediately thought they had no clue how to make it truly interactive.
Right, saw the gap.
So he suggested to Kimball, why don't we do it ourselves? He began writing code combining business listings with map data, calling it Virtual City Navigator.
This was truly ahead of its time, demonstrating a foresight into the digital landscape that few others possessed. When faced with the seemingly conventional choice between pursuing a Stanford PhD, a path to academic prestige, and this nascent, unproven idea, Peter Nicholson of Scotiabank offered prescient advice. The internet revolution only comes once in a lifetime, so strike while the iron is hot.
Good advice.
Musk officially enrolled at Stanford, but, true to his convictions, immediately deferred, stating with characteristic humility and audacity, "I will probably fail, and if so, I would like to come back." His professor, Bill Nix, famously predicted he never would return, a testament to the compelling and undeniable force of the internet wave he was about to ride, and indeed help create.
In May 1995, that initial concept blossomed into Zip2. It's truly a bootstrap family effort, wasn't it? His father, Errol, despite his complexity, sent $28,000 in a beat-up car. While his mother, May, came more often, bringing food, clothes, $10,000, and even letting them use her credit card. Every bit counted.
Absolutely. Their big break, however, came with Navtech, a company that wisely licensed maps to them for free until Zip2 was profitable, a huge boost for a fledgling startup.
That's huge.
Elon, the driven programmer, wrote the core program merging those digital maps with business listings. Kimball describes the early magic of it. You could use your cursor and zoom in and move around the map. That stuff is totally normal today, but it was mind-blowing to see that at the time.
Yeah, hard to imagine now.
I think Elon and I were the first humans to see it work on the internet. They aptly named it Zip2, as in zip to where you want to go, a name that perfectly captured the spirit of innovation at the time and the direct, practical application of their groundbreaking technology. This combination of family support, strategic partnership, and raw technical brilliance laid the foundation for his first significant success. 3. The seeds of disruption, founding SpaceX and Tesla.
So after the successful sale of Zip2, a moment many would savor, Musk indulged a bit, acquiring a $1 million McLaren F1 supercar.
The legendary F1, yeah.
While showing it to a CNN reporter, he stated, "The real payoff is the sense of satisfaction in having created a company." But his then-girlfriend Justine cooed, perhaps a bit more candidly. Yes, but the car as well, let's be honest.
Yeah, a little bit of honesty there.
It's a small, telling glimpse into a dynamic that would shape his dramatic personal life, often mirroring his professional intensity.
This small, almost throwaway moment truly highlights his complex relationship with traditional markers of success and external validation. The source describes Justine, his first wife, as grumpy and antisocial, to the point where friends actively avoided staying at their house.
Really?
Yeah. Kimball, his brother, explicitly stated he couldn't stand her. And May, his mother, even more bluntly said she has no redeeming feature.
Ouch. That's rough.
It clearly sets the stage for a dramatic and often tumultuous personal life, a life where the line between private turmoil and public intensity often blurred, a pattern that unfortunately recurs throughout his story.
After Zip2, Musk's management style was already in full force with X.com, his next venture, which he founded with a vision for online financial services. He set an insane deadline, publicly announcing a launch for Thanksgiving weekend, 1999.
Thanksgiving weekend, seriously.
A move one engineer called a dick move, given the holiday. He famously prowled the office in a nervous-making frenzy, often sleeping under his desk to maximize his time. That's a level of intensity and demand that few leaders can sustain.
His intensity at X.com was legendary, setting the tone for his later companies. He even called an engineer at 11 a.m. on Thanksgiving, demanding his return because another employee was not running on full thrusters anymore.
On Thanksgiving morning?
Yeah. This extreme behavior, while undoubtedly creating drama, resentment, and immense pressure, also led to undeniable success. When the product went live, employees celebrated the exhilarating sight of cash whirring out of an X.com debit card at an ATM.
Must have felt good, despite the process.
The ability to send money by email became wildly popular, especially among users on eBay. This demonstrated that his extreme demands, however controversial, often yielded tangible, revolutionary results, hinting at the production hell culture that would become his hallmark.
When rival Kidfinity, which ran a competing service called PayPal, entered the scene, led by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin, Musk met them. His initial merger proposal was incredibly bold, even audacious. X.com would own 90% of the merged company and Confinity just 10%.
90-10. Wow.
Despite them having roughly equal users at the time. Levchin genuinely wondered if he was serious, noting Musk's ironic streak beneath a serious, I'm not joking look.
Musk later admitted with a wry smile, "We were playing a game." His exceedingly high tolerance for risk was famously displayed not just in business but in person when he floored it in his McLaren with Thiel and Levchin in the car, resulting in a dramatic crash that could have been catastrophic.
He crashed the McLaren.
Nice.
With them in it.
He did. Thiel, reflecting on the incident, realized he was a bit crazy. Musk also stubbornly insisted on keeping the X.com name over PayPal after the merger, believing it was better for his grander vision of taking over the world's financial system rather than being a mere niche payment system.
Always thinking bigger picture.
Always. His organizational philosophy, focusing on directly integrating engineering and product design, would later become a core tenet carried over to Tesla and SpaceX. Levchin would describe Musk as someone who didn't just exaggerate, but made it up, like his father, yet could also surprise you by knowing way more than you do about your own specialty. This blend of audacious vision and profound technical knowledge made him a truly formidable, if consistently challenging, leader.
For the second time in 3 years, Musk was pushed out of a company he founded. While on a much-needed trip to Australia, he was completely blindsided by a plot to remove him as CEO of the merged X.com PayPal entity.
Ouch. Again.
It must have been a crushing blow. How did he react to such a significant and repetitive setback?
What's striking, and perhaps counterintuitive given his personality, is his response. He displayed what many described as calm and grace. He emailed staff quite maturely that the time has come to bring in a seasoned CEO, and that he planned a sabbatical before starting a new company.
Calm and grace.
Interesting. He famously compared it to the biblical Book of Solomon, where he was willing to give it up so it could survive, rather than tear it apart with internal conflict. Roelof Botha, a colleague, noted Musk's unique willingness to amplify risk and burn the boats, unlike other entrepreneurs who typically mitigate risk.
Right.
This willingness to push boundaries, even at immense personal and professional cost, would define his next acts, propelling him to even more ambitious ventures, almost as if he needed these setbacks to fuel his next grander obsession.
And what came next was truly audacious. In January 2001, shortly after returning from Palo Alto, Musk suffered a severe health crisis, initially misdiagnosed as meningitis, but correctly identified as falciparum malaria, the most dangerous form.
Nearly died.
A truly life-threatening experience that could have ended everything.
This near-death experience, coupled with his lifelong allure of flight and his childhood dreams of the stars, seemed to profoundly galvanize his focus on space. On Labor Day 2001, he told his friend Adeo Resi, with a sense of almost predetermined purpose, "I've always wanted to do something in space, but I don't think there's anything that an individual can do."
Famous last words, almost.
Right. But for Musk, this too expensive, seemingly impossible challenge became the next frontier. He believed the next epoch-making significance for humanity was making life multiplanetary. As Max Levchin dryly but accurately put it, one of Elon's greatest skills is the ability to pass off his vision as a mandate from heaven, transforming a seemingly impossible, deeply personal dream into a compelling global imperative.
His initial plan for SpaceX, astonishingly, wasn't immediately about building rockets for profit. It was almost philanthropic, driven by a desire to inspire the public to support NASA and space exploration.
Yeah, the Mars Oasis idea.
He first considered sending mice to Mars, then settled on a little greenhouse to photograph plants thriving on the red planet, believing it would create public glamour for more missions.
He estimated this Mars Oasis philanthropic endeavor could be done for less than $30 million. It's hard to imagine that sum for a Mars mission today.
$30 million?
Yeah.
That sounds cheap now.
When he traveled to Russia with engineer Jim Cantrell to buy old, refurbished intercontinental ballistic missiles, the negotiations quickly turned hostile. A Russian chief designer with immense disdain reportedly spit on them.
Spat on there.
And they were taunted with, "Oh, little boy, you don't have the money." It was a humiliating encounter, but it sparked a profound epiphany for Musk. He then realized the idiot index of rockets, that they cost an astonishing 50 times more than their raw materials.
50 times.
On the flight home, in a moment that would fundamentally change the aerospace industry, he began detailed spreadsheets, meticulously calculating every single cost, while Cantrell and fellow engineer Mike Griffin watched, laughing, wondering, what the fuck do you think that idiot savant is doing up there?
Wow. The birth of SpaceX. right there on a plain spreadsheet.
Pretty much. This seemingly trivial encounter, this spark of indignation, was the genesis of SpaceX's radical vertical integration and its relentless, almost obsessive cost-cutting ethos. It was a direct response to being dismissed and a powerful lesson in self-reliance and engineering from first principles.
And speaking of personal relationships, the source briefly revisits the complexities of his relationship with his father, Errol, around this time. It's almost unbelievable given their history, but Elon actually bought a house in Malibu for Errol and his family, along with a Land Rover.
Yeah, that's complicated.
It seems, despite everything, he still tried to connect, to heal old wounds.
Kimball, who bore witness to so much of Errol's behavior, was appalled, telling Elon quite directly, "You're forgetting that he's a dark human. Do not do this."
Strong words.
Kimball later wondered if seeing his own infant son, Nevada, die suddenly might have driven Elon to want his father near him, a heartbreaking possibility that highlights the deep emotional currents driving Musk. However, the situation quickly became fraught and disturbing when Elon became concerned that Errol, then 56, was uncomfortably attentive to one of his stepdaughters, Jana, who was then 15.
Oh no, that's awful.
This utterly devastating turn of events demonstrates the continued, deeply troubled influence of his father and family on his personal decisions, showing how his most profound personal demons were never far from the surface, constantly impacting his life, even amidst his greatest professional ambitions.
Switching gears to Tesla, one of Musk's most important decisions for the electric car company, which became its defining imprint, was his insistence on vertical integration to make its own key components, rather than piecing together a car with hundreds of components from independent suppliers.
Right, controlling the whole stack.
This focus on controlling every aspect of production was quite unusual for a new car company, and certainly for the traditional auto industry.
This vertical integration was about controlling not just quality and costs, but fundamentally controlling their destiny in quality and costs and supply chain. He believed quite radically that creating the manufacturing processes and factories to mass-produce cars was even more important than simply creating a good car itself.
The machine that builds the machine.
Yeah, exactly. This philosophy of controlling the machine that builds the machine would become an absolute hallmark of his approach to all his companies, from Tesla to SpaceX. It reflected his deep-seated, almost obsessive belief in optimizing every single step of production, minimizing external dependencies, and rejecting conventional industry wisdom. He wasn't just building cars, he was reinventing how cars were built from the ground up.
Yet this audacious vision came with immediate challenges. The target cost for the Roadster was $50,000, but due to Musk's continuous design changes and persistent transmission problems, that cost swelled to $83,000 by November 2006, almost doubling.
Yikes. Cost overruns already.
Cost overruns, as we now know, would become an early and recurring challenge in his ventures.
Indeed. Musk, acting as board chair, famously flew to England to visit Lotus, the chassis supplier, without even informing Tesla's CEO, Martin Eberhard.
Just showed up.
Pretty much. There, Lotus, the very company supplying the chassis, reported over 800 problems and an 8-month delay. An impulsive visit by Musk to a carbon fiber supplier revealed total failure. This hands-on, impatient, and sometimes disruptive problem-solving style would remain constant throughout his career.
Right.
He wouldn't hesitate to directly intervene, flying across the globe, stepping on toes, or even throwing out entire production lines, all in his relentless pursuit of overcoming obstacles and achieving his vision. He trusts his own judgment above all else.
A major conflict inevitably emerged over who was the main founder of Tesla. Martin Eberhard felt it was unequivocally him, having originally come up with the idea and registered the company. Musk, however, strongly disagreed, seeing his financial and intellectual input, his very vision, as foundational.
The founder wars? Yeah. Musk argued quite forcefully that when he met Eberhard and his colleagues, they had no intellectual property, no employees, nothing. All they had was a shell corporation.
So just an idea, basically.
That was Musk's take. The source notes that after an initial press release only named Eberhard and Tarpening as founders, Musk moved forcefully to make sure that his own role was never again minimized, even getting Tesla's PR chief fired for not prioritizing his narrative.
Wow, playing hardball.
Musk later called getting involved with Eberhard the worst mistake I ever made in my career, leading to a libel lawsuit in 2008. And even after a settlement was reached, Musk continued to tweet disparaging remarks, famously calling Eberhard literally the worst person I have ever worked with.
Holds a grudge, clearly.
This deep-seated resentment, this almost pathological inability to let go of a perceived slight, vividly illustrates his intense personal investment and his demon's corner, a term used in the book to describe where grudges reside, an important aspect of his challenging personality.
The biography also introduces Antonio Gracias, a friend and investor, who offers a particularly unique perspective on Musk. Gracias himself had a fascinating background, from bulk condom sales to buying and fixing troubled companies by spending all his time on the shop floor, learning from factory workers.
A real hands-on guy.
His practical, no-nonsense approach to business makes his insights into Musk especially compelling.
Gracias's assessment of Musk's behavior, particularly the more abrasive aspects, is remarkably candid and insightful. He says, quite bluntly, "Maybe if the price the world pays for this kind of accomplishment is a real asshole doing it, well, it's probably a price worth paying. That's how I've come to think about it anyway."
Whoa, that's direct.
But then, after a pregnant pause, he adds, almost wistfully, "But I wouldn't want to be that way." This incredibly honest and nuanced assessment captures the difficult balance between Musk's undeniable disruptive genius and his often challenging personality. It acknowledges that sometimes truly extraordinary progress and world-changing innovation might indeed come at a significant social and personal cost, leaving us to ponder if the ends justify the means. 4. Battling production hell and personal demons.
As Tesla began its arduous journey, it faced intense challenges, including an increasingly unwieldy supply chain. Musk, in his search for a CEO to navigate this difficult period, brought in Zeev Drori, described as a combat-tested Israeli paratroop officer, specifically because he was afraid of nothing.
Wanted someone tough.
He seemed to be looking for someone with an almost unshakable iron will to match his own.
He certainly was. However, the problem was that Drori, despite his military prowess, did not know anything about making cars, and within months, senior executives like J.B. Straubel, a critical engineer, had trouble continuing to work for him.
Not a good fit, then.
Apparently not. Board members eventually convinced Musk to take over himself in October 2008, making him the 4th CEO in about a year.
4th CEO in a year.
This period highlights the extreme volatility of early Tesla and Musk's eventual inevitable need for direct, uncompromising control. It encapsulates his famous declaration, "I've got to have both hands on the steering wheel." He realized that for his companies to survive, he needed to be the ultimate singular driving force, a pattern we see again and again.
The year 2008 was, by Musk's own admission, the most painful year of my life. Tesla was literally careening toward bankruptcy, set to run out of money on Christmas Eve, with not enough to even meet payroll.
Down to the absolute wire.
It was truly down to the wire, a razor-thin margin between survival and complete collapse.
It was an absolutely nail-biting period. A critical $20 million equity round, essential for survival, was dramatically threatened when one investor, Vantage Point Capital, balked at the last minute.
Man, Christmas Eve drama.
Musk, demonstrating his incredible resourcefulness under pressure, scrambled furiously to restructure the financing as debt, a maneuver that would bypass the veto. On Christmas Eve, from Kimball's house in Boulder, with Tallulah Riley wrapping presents, Musk was on the phone frantically trying to sort this thing out.
While wrapping presents.
When the deal finally, miraculously closed, Musk, for one of the few times publicly, broke down in tears, saying, had it gone the other way, Tesla would have been dead. He also vehemently denies any claims of government bailouts, clarifying that Tesla received no TARP funds, unlike GM and Chrysler, a point of great pride and distinction for him.
Right, he makes that point often.
This shows the absolute razor-thin margin of survival for his companies and the immense, almost unbearable personal pressure he was under.
In July 2008, amidst that hellish period with rockets blowing up and Tesla struggling desperately, Musk found a surprising connection. At a Royal Aeronautical Society speech in London, a not propitious time, as the source puts it, he met Tallulah Riley.
Timing is everything, or nothing.
He was quite disarmingly shy and slightly awkward, asking her, "May I put my hand on your knee?" It's a surprisingly tender, if awkward, introduction that belies the chaos he was navigating.
Their courtship was incredibly intense, a whirlwind of emotion, with almost every meal together for 3 days and him shopping for gifts for his 5 kids. Riley later describes Musk's emotional settings as ranging from callous to needy to exuberant, noting he was almost childlike in his enthusiasm.
Childlike, huh?
However, she observed that when he was angry, he felt things in a very pure way, with a depth that most people don't get. This unique, often extreme emotional range speaks to the profound complexity of his character, where extreme highs and lows were not just part of his professional life, but his daily personal experience.
And what Tallulah Riley observed about his anger, given our earlier discussion, is particularly chilling. She noticed that during conversations, Musk would sometimes lapse into a trance-like state and recount things that his father used to say.
The echoes again?
It's a stark reminder of the lasting, almost haunting impact of that childhood trauma.
She found it shocking and deeply disturbing because the phrases Errol used to berate Elon were brutal, profoundly abusive, and she had heard Elon use some of the same phrases when he was angry at her or others.
He used the same phrases.
Oh, wow.
Musk himself, with a kind of brutal honesty, warned her early on, "Being with me can be difficult. This will be a hard path." This suggests a deeply ingrained behavioral pattern, almost a generational trauma cycle, where his own childhood pain and the words inflicted upon him manifested in his adult relationships, contributing to a recurring cycle of drama and often painful interactions. It illustrates the profound, often unconscious influence of his past on his present behavior.
Amidst all this personal and financial turmoil, Musk remained absolutely relentless about his core philosophy for Tesla. He insisted on tight control of manufacturing, believing that designing the factory to build a car was as important as designing the car itself.
The machine that builds the machine, yeah.
This wasn't just a preference, it was a core tenet, a non-negotiable. This vision contrasts starkly with figures like Steve Jobs, who famously outsourced manufacturing to focus on design and software. Musk, conversely, took on the manufacturing, the materials, the huge factories, spending far more time on assembly lines than in design studios.
Living on the factory floor, basically.
Pretty much. He even went so far as to put engineers' cubicles right on the edge of the assembly line so they would feel the immediate pain if their designs caused problems on the floor. His own desk was an open desk in the middle of it all with no walls, and he often slept there with a pillow. This is the absolute heart of his hardcore culture, a relentless, hands-on pursuit of efficiency and direct problem-solving that permeates his entire organization.
So when the first Model S cars finally rolled off the Fremont line in June 2012, it was a moment of immense celebration for many. But for Musk, it seems it was just the beginning of what he called production hell.
Exactly. For him, it was merely the end of the beginning. He immediately spelled out his creed for the road ahead in a stark email titled, quite fittingly, Ultra Hardcore.
Ultra hardcore. Doesn't mince words.
He wrote, "Please prepare yourself for a level of intensity that is greater than anything most of you have experienced before. Revolutionizing industries is not for the faint of heart." This philosophy was applied relentlessly. We see it in his hands-on approach to fixing production line problems himself, whether by redesigning parts on the spot or reprogramming robots directly on the factory floor, all aimed at cutting down on what he called idiot index inefficiencies.
Right.
It was about pushing the limits of what was humanly and industrially possible, a testament to his unwavering drive to achieve his vision at any cost.
But even with that hardcore approach, there were missteps. When robotic arms struggled to adjust window seals on the assembly line, Musk, in a characteristic move, tried the task himself and found it surprisingly easy for a human.
Just jumped in and did it.
He then issued a famous, almost impulsive order. You have 72 hours to remove every unnecessary machine.
72 hours, just rip them out.
Yeah.
This led to a dramatic robot removal that became like a game on the factory floor, with Musk marking machines with an orange X and, surprisingly, laughing as they were dismantled. He later publicly admitted, with a rare display of humility for someone so committed to automation, quote, "Excessive automation at Tesla was a mistake. To be precise, my mistake. Humans are underrated."
Huh. Admitting a mistake.
Yeah.
That's significant.
It demonstrates his capacity for critical self-correction and pragmatism, even after driving teams to extreme lengths for an idea he passionately believed in. It showed that while he could be relentless, he wasn't immune to learning from his own very expensive mistakes.
Away from the factories, his mind was still constantly identifying problems to solve, often in the most unexpected ways. In December 2016, stuck in soul-crushing Los Angeles traffic, Musk impulsively tweeted, "Traffic is driving me nuts. I'm going to build a tunnel boring machine and just start digging."
Just like that, a tweet, then a company.
It's a classic Musk moment. A seemingly mundane frustration leading to a grand, ambitious, almost ludicrous solution.
It absolutely is. He then toyed with various names for this new venture, before finally landing on the perfectly ironic and now famous The Boring Company, tweeting, Boring, it's what we do.
Huh.
He then put a remarkable $100 million of his own money into the venture and frequently visited the site, focusing as always on deleting steps and simplifying the process of digging tunnels. This perfectly illustrates his direct, impulsive, and deeply personal problem-solving style, even for seemingly mundane issues like traffic congestion, turning it into a new venture born from his relentless drive to fix anything he perceived as inefficient or frustrating in the world around him.
Shifting to another frontier, autopilot. Musk initially discussed working with Google's Larry Page on an autopilot system for Tesla, but their falling out over artificial intelligence spurred Musk to accelerate plans for Tesla to build a system on its own.
Right, the AI disagreements, that was a big split.
It seems the stakes of AI were too high for him to delegate.
They certainly were. Google's Waymo, for instance, used LiDAR. That's a remote sensing method that uses pulsed laser light to measure distances, essentially seeing with lasers. But Musk fiercely resisted the use of LiDAR and other radar-like instruments.
Yeah, he's famous for hating LiDAR.
He stubbornly insisted that a self-driving system should use only visual data from cameras, mirroring human vision. His reasoning was based on first principles, which for him meant breaking down a problem to its most fundamental truths, stripping away all assumptions and reasoning up from there.
Okay.
For autopilot, he reasoned, humans drove using only visual data, therefore machines should be able to. He also cited cost, saying Google's complex sensor system was too expensive. This deeply held conviction led to later controversial decisions about autopilot development, showcasing his unwavering belief in his unique, often singular approach to engineering challenges.
In October 2016, a particularly difficult moment arose after 2 deaths related to autopilot. Musk, during a conference call with reporters, got visibly angry.
Yeah, that was a tense call. He stated quite forcefully that if stories dissuaded people from using autonomous driving or regulators from approving them, then you are killing people.
Whoa, that's extreme.
He then famously barked, "Next question," cutting off further discussion. This intense reaction, though highly controversial, stemmed from his deep conviction in the life-saving potential of the technology, arguing that autonomous vehicles would, on balance, save vastly more lives than they might inadvertently endanger, and his aversion to perceived bureaucratic delays or negative narratives that could slow down progress.
Right.
His vision for full self-driving was undeniably grand, but as the source notes, it was often akin to a mirage that kept receding into the horizon, constantly promising a future just within reach. The unrelenting drive, expanding empires and confronting the future.
Now, let's talk about a later, more contemporary manifestation of his anti-authority streak, and something that resonates with his earlier displays of stubbornness and high-risk tolerance. In March 2020, as COVID-19 began to spread globally, Musk tweeted, quite defiantly, "The coronavirus panic is dumb."
That definitely caused a stir.
And when California issued a stay-at-home order, he famously defied it, keeping the Fremont factory open.
He did. He emailed his staff, stating that if they felt the slightest bit ill or even uncomfortable, they shouldn't come to work, but then added, with characteristic directness, "I will personally be at work. My frank opinion remains that the harm from the coronavirus panic far exceeds that of the virus itself."
Wow.
This reflects a deep-seated anti-authority streak, a profound skepticism of conventional wisdom and government mandates, and his incredibly high tolerance for risk, not just for himself, but controversially for his employees. It's a perfect example of his my way or the highway approach, rooted in his own convictions and willingness to operate outside established norms.
This stance, and indeed some of his later political leanings, as highlighted in the biography, were partly triggered by a deeply personal and painful event. His daughter Jenna's transition and embrace of radical socialist politics, which led her to break off relations with him.
Yeah, that's a very tough personal situation described in the source.
It's a tragic personal loss that seems to have had a broader impact on his worldview.
Jared Birchall, his personal manager, states quite directly that Musk feels he lost a son who changed first and last names and won't speak to him anymore because of this woke mind virus.
Woke mind virus. That's his term.
That's the term used in the source, yes. This profound personal pain, this sense of loss and alienation, undeniably fueled his conviction that wokeness was destroying humor and was inherently divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. We see this manifest in his public shift of loyalty from the Onion to the Babylon Bee, arguing, with characteristic bluntness, wokeness wants to make comedy illegal.
Interesting connection between personal pain and public stance.
While the source doesn't delve into specific political endorsements, it explains how this personal hurt contributed to his public criticisms of figures like Dr. Fauci and President Biden, whom he famously called a damp sock puppet in human form for downplaying Tesla's role in electric vehicles. It shows how even his public stances can be deeply rooted in private anguish.
Another key to understanding Musk's intensity and strategic thinking lies in his lifelong passion for video games. As a 13-year-old, he wrote Blastar, but he later became obsessed with complex strategy games like Civilization and Warcraft. These weren't just pastimes, were they?
Not at all. They were, in a very real sense, a training ground for his mind. In 2021, he became obsessed with a new multiplayer strategy game on his iPhone, Polytopia, becoming so good that he actually beat its Swedish developer.
Beat the developer, okay.
When asked what this said about him, he answered quite chillingly, "I am just wired for war, basically."
Wired for war.
His friend Siobhan Zillis downloaded it to play with him, calling it a fucking rabbit hole with so many life lessons embedded within its strategic complexity. Even his brother Kimball learned it for Polytopia life lessons, using its principles to teach how to be a CEO.
Using a game to teach CEO lessons. That's unique.
This direct connection between the strategic demands of warfare simulation games and his real-world business decisions is a striking, almost unsettling insight into his cognitive processes and his relentless competitive drive.
And it's this competitive drive, combined with a touch of playfulness and a profound strategic vision, that led to his monumental acquisition of Twitter. In early 2022, with $10 billion from stock sales, Musk decided to invest in the platform, seeing it as a product he genuinely liked. But it quickly became something much more.
The source calls Twitter an ideal, almost too ideal playground for Musk, describing it quite colorfully as a flamethrower for the thumbs.
A flamethrower for the thumbs, that's vivid.
It was a platform that perfectly rewarded impulsiveness, irreverence, and controversy operating like a schoolyard, including taunting and bullying. Musk, as the richest and cleverest of all, could, in this environment, decide to become king of the schoolyard.
King of the schoolyard, so it tapped into the childhood dynamics.
That's the psychological interpretation offered, yeah. Blending his childhood experiences of bullying, his learned confrontational defense mechanisms, and his later dominance. He also saw its potential to fulfill his original vision for X.com and PayPal as an everything app with integrated financial services, a grand vision he'd held for decades.
Beyond the digital realm, Musk continues to push the boundaries of what's possible with the physical world, bringing his grand visions to life. Based on discussions with Franz von Holzhausen, Tesla's chief designer, the company began kicking around ideas for a humanoid robot.
Optimus, right.
They envisioned something about 5'8", with an elfish and androgynous look so it doesn't feel like it could or would want to hurt you. This was the genesis of Optimus.
Musk was, characteristically, impatient with the pace of work at Neuralink, which, despite its impressive feat of a monkey playing Pong telepathically, wasn't moving fast enough towards what he truly desired. Something with more limbic resonance, like making paralyzed people walk.
Always pushing for more, faster.
He relentlessly pushed the Optimus team, believing this humanoid robot would uncork the economy to quasi-infinite levels and solve the looming problem of lack of population growth. His immediate focus, however, was on making Optimus a viable business, believing it would be a main driver of Tesla profits, potentially more significant than the vehicle business in the long run.
Bigger than cars.
Wow. He even suggested using a cheaper liftgate actuators from our cars for the robot's wrists to control costs, showcasing his constant blend of grand vision and practical cost-cutting.
And his discussions about Optimus often veered into his futuristic fantasies, including a simulation of Optimus working on Mars. He even joked about the robot's charger cord plugging into the butt.
Ha! Yeah, the giggle factor.
Right.
While he certainly embraced that in his discussions, he also harbored serious, almost existential concerns about the robots turning into monsters.
The Terminator scenario.
Pretty much. Citing Isaac Asimov's famous rules of robotics, he game-planned strategies for humans to prevail over deadly robot armies, demonstrating his dual focus, both on groundbreaking innovation and on the profound, long-term existential risks that such technology might pose. It's a constant push-pull between utopian dreams and dystopian fears in his mind.
Finally, we arrive at the culmination of so many of his inherent traits and ambitions. Starship. In April 2023, just before the experimental Starship launch, Musk confessed to his trusted engineer, Mark Juncosa, My stomach is twisted in knots. I have PTSD from the failures on Quaj.
Kwajalein, yeah. The early SpaceX launch failures.
It reveals the immense, often invisible personal toll his relentless risk-taking execs.
It's a powerful moment of vulnerability for a man who often appears invincible. Despite this deep personal struggle, he immediately retreated into the future, as the source describes, peppering Juncosa with ideas for a mammoth factory capable of building rockets at a rate of more than one a month.
Immediately back to the future.
His biggest concern was their trajectory to get to Mars before civilization crumbles. This singular vision, this urgent imperative to make humanity multiplanetary, drives literally everything, as he states. The lens of getting to Mars has motivated every SpaceX decision. It's the ultimate expression of his impact drive.
The Starship launch itself, as you mentioned, involved immense risks, like foregoing a crucial steel plate for the launch mount because it wasn't ready, calculating that the concrete alone would survive the immense thrust.
Which it didn't, quite. This proved to be a critical mistake, but it perfectly reflects Musk's fail-fast approach. His philosophy is unapologetic. We don't want to design to eliminate every risk. Otherwise, we will never get anywhere.
Move fast and break things, literally.
He even embraces the irony of failure, famously tweeting, "The most entertaining outcome is the most likely." This encapsulates his unique blend of engineering brilliance, extreme risk tolerance forged in childhood, and a peculiar brand of showmanship. It's important to note, though, that someone like Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's president, is shown to be a critical counterbalance, able to push back on his most radical burn-the-boats strategies when they threaten existing, crucial military contracts, providing a much-needed layer of pragmatic restraint.
Interesting. Need that balance. Outro. What an incredible journey we've taken today, diving into the earliest chapters of Elon Musk's life, from his tumultuous childhood to the forging of SpaceX and Tesla. We've explored the profound influence of a difficult upbringing on his personality, from his aversion to contentment and his almost insatiable craving for crisis, to his addiction to drama and his unique social wiring. We've seen how these foundational experiences shaped his relentless pursuit of world-changing goals, from electric cars to the colonization of Mars.
What stands out here, looking at these early chapters of your source material, is the consistent, almost unbreakable thread that ties everything together. His incredible, almost unprecedented tolerance for risk, his hardcore approach to problem solving, and his unwavering, almost messianic belief in pushing humanity forward, whether through electric vehicles, space colonization, or artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
His personal struggles, as we've seen, are not separate from his professional drive. They are deeply, inextricably intertwined, fueling his relentless, almost frantic pace. He truly is a product of his experiences and his inherent nature, converging to create a truly unique and often controversial force in the world.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, consider this. If the very qualities that drive such monumental disruptive innovation are born from deep personal struggles and an almost insatiable craving for crisis, what does that tell us about the true cost of progress?
It's a fascinating question.
And what does it mean for the leaders we admire? Those who fundamentally reshape our world, who might be operating at their absolute peak, not despite their demons, but in some profound and complex way because of them.
Something to really think about.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We hope this exploration leaves you not just informed, but inspired to keep asking those big, challenging questions.